Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Love Well podcast. My name is Marlene,
And my name is Anna.
and we are so excited that you decided to join back in with us. And as we have been sharing stories, so please, if you have not listened to our series on immigration, I encourage you to go back and listen to the episodes. I can assure you, you are going to be blessed by the different perspectives, different immigration stories. And today we're going to continue to do just that. We have a very special guest, and my friend Anna is going to tell us a little bit more about her. Anna?
Yes, thanks, Marlene. Also, just for those that have been listening, we just want to say thank you. And we really appreciate all of your support and all of your sweet messages that we've already received. It really
Yes.
does mean a ton. So just thank you guys so much for that. And I have the privilege today of being able to bring on one of my good friends, Gabby. We met through a mutual friend not too long ago, actually. But she is amazing. She works at Elevation Church here in Charlotte, and she is originally from London, England. So, Gabby, welcome to the Love Well podcast.
Welcome.
Hello.
Will you tell us a little bit about yourself and just kind of what it was like growing up in London?
Yeah. So, hello everyone. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast today. I really do appreciate it. So actually from Nottingham, Anna. So 2 hours away from London.
Okay.
So
Our friendship is still growing.
I know, it's still growing.
I'm still learning lots about her.
Love it.
Sorry
But
about
close.
that.
Close by.
Okay.
About
Yes.
2 hours away from London.
Perfect.
And yeah, so I grew up there, and when I was 9 years old, I actually moved to South Africa. And I lived there in Cape Town for about 10 years. Then I came back to Nottingham, and I lived there for about 4 years. I went to college there, and then I moved to America, and North Carolina, and I've been here ever since. So I've been here for about 5 years now. So yeah.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
I was going to ask, well, I mean, again, very nice to meet you. I just piqued my interest as soon as you said you lived in South Africa, and then to Nottingham. I could say
Nottingham.
Nottingham.
Okay, the American version is Nottingham, but you actually pronounce it Nottingham.
Oh,
love it.
Nottingham. Yeah.
Okay, now we know the correct pronunciation.
Now you know the American version, and now you know the British version.
Love it. That matters, and we make space for that because there is a difference.
Language matters.
Right.
Would you want to share a little bit deeper just into what it looked like to grow up? Maybe some differences that you have noticed. Obviously, you've lived here for 5 years, so I'm sure there's plenty of those. But can you bring us more into your world? Like, what was that like growing up there? I would love to hear if you are willing to share.
Yeah, of course. I would say growing up in Cape Town, it's just one of the most beautiful countries in the world. It's full of like so many beaches and mountains, and it's just really breathtaking. But also, it is a third world country. So we have a lot of like poverty, a lot of like underprivileged children that obviously don't have the opportunity to like get a great education. So I would say the massive contrast between obviously America being a first world country and South Africa being a third world country is the massive contrast of the two different worlds that obviously you have an amazing privilege here in America to have a great education, and obviously most of it can be free. And you don't, obviously private schools you pay for, but the opportunity to actually have a great education in South Africa, there isn't that. You have to pay for your education, and many people can't afford it. So I'll say that's one drastic comparison. But obviously there's the UK, obviously I grew up in the UK, I grew up in South Africa, so I've had two different experiences. I would say the UK and obviously America, those two places obviously first world countries. So you've got the something similar is that, education is free. And you've obviously got the opportunity to really have a kind of a great upbringing in that. So yeah.
Interesting. So did you go to college in Cape Town?
I did.
Okay.
I didn't. I went in. So I actually went back to college, in the UK.
Okay.
But in Cape Town, you would have to pay. Obviously, same as here. Everyone has to pay for their kind of college tuition. But I would one thing I would say, America university costs are so much more higher than anywhere else in the world. That's one crazy difference, and I don't know why. But yeah, that is.
Me either.
I was shocked as well when
Tell
I
that to
moved
the student
here.
loans.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, when my husband shared, I'm like, oh wow, that's a lot of money that
A
goes
lot
into
of
that.
money, and I don't know why.
Girl,
Great
I don't know
question.
why either. That is a wonderful question that I don't think any of us has an answer to.
Yeah.
So if anyone listening, hey,
Okay, wait,
contact
but
us.
just to clarify, both of you did not go to college in America, right? You came here
No.
afterwards. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that is a big difference for sure.
So yeah, I would say, my experience with college and what I'm hearing American experience of college is very, very different. I would say here, what do you guys have? You have like a group of people that you like are there to be a part of when you join the university, like college. What is it? I can't remember the
Like
name of it.
like
Like,
ambassadors?
not ambassadors. There's another name for it. I don't even
Fraternities?
know. Yes, that's it.
Which
That is
one?
it. That's like
Fraternities,
a
yeah.
that's like a bizarre thing to me. I
Oh,
was like,
like
wait,
Greek
what?
life, like fraternity sororities?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, yeah, yeah. Very big here.
yeah. Never heard of that. I was like, wait, what? There's a group of people before you go there that are going to welcome you to make you feel part of like, yeah.
Well,
That
you
is a
have to
very
make it into the sorority. I don't know what they're called, but there's different ones. There's like Zeta and all sorts of ones. And so you have to make it into that. Like they have like a whole program called Rush, and that's where you like go to basically, this is going to sound kind of shallow, but to kind of be like examined, and then they decide, oh, we want you or we don't want you.
I've seen it
It's
in
very,
movies.
it's,
So
it can be very,
is it question, Anna?
yeah.
Is it similar like how it's presented in American movies of like, yeah, you have to do the initiation things and these are
Yeah,
the prerequisites or
initiation.
whatever to be able
Yeah.
to be a part of it and every sorority. Okay. Okay, because sometimes movies are exaggerate things, but sometimes it's like, oh, it's kind of similar, obviously. Not all of
And
it
I
is.
will say firsthand, I was not in a sorority, so I do not have too much like place to say anything. But some of my friends were in sororities where I went at USD in South Carolina, and I will say it is a very big thing. So I wouldn't say movies don't do it disjustice, but it's pretty similar to what you see on movies.
yeah.
At least as
Interesting.
far as the process goes. Yeah.
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 So
Crazy.
what can you share just a tiny bit more of like what college looks like? Because I'm completely interested into hearing also like, you come here and I also have a very different college experience. Dorms is not
Yeah.
as much as a thing. Very, very different college experience. So could you share a little bit about that? I'm curious to hear like what did it look like, more specifics.
Yeah, I would say, so I went to college in the UK. I know it's probably very confusing, but so this is my UK experience. And I actually stayed at home for my college experience. So it was very different to the rest of my kind of like friends that I went to college with. It's also it's only 3 years long. So I know here to get like a bachelor's degree, it's 4 years long. In the UK, it's only 3 years long. So
Interesting.
um, I don't know why that. I don't know why there's like a year extra in America. But yeah, in the UK is only 3 years. So I stayed at home, so save a little bit of money. And it's, I would say it's like what the main difference is like you know exactly what you're going to go into. Here, I think you've got like a year of general studies.
Got it.
So
Yeah.
first year of
That makes
university, college, you're like straight away, I know what I'm going to be studying versus having the freedom to kind of like pick different classes and do different things. It's kind of more straight up and direct of what you're going to be going into. I would say obviously the overall experience is still the same thing of like people enjoying like different parties, and there's obviously people that because I stayed at home, I didn't really have the experience staying in a dorm with people. But that's still the experience that you have in the UK too. So yeah, it's very similar, but also there's going to be some like different tweaks. I would say sports is way more of an emphasis here too, more than the UK. So I would say that would be something that is not as emphasis on of like make sure that you're part of a sport. I would say Americans love sports way more than Brits do. But I would say South Africans would like sports too. So I would say South African Americans are very similar in that. Whilst the UK, we do like sports, but there's not so much of a massive emphasis on it. So yeah.
Unless it comes to football, like soccer.
If it's soccer, we're all in. We love football. Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously,
I love it.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Some soccer fans on here. I was gonna
call
say
it football,
I'm pretty
Anna.
sure Gabby,
Sorry.
Yeah. Call it football, Anna.
we're talking to an American on it. No,
don't. Yeah, true. Everyone, we should all call it football because I don't.
Thank you.
If you think about it, like you're kicking a ball and you're kicking the ball with your foot. Football.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
Well,
do you know what I mean?
That's what I tell people. That's what I tell people. You know, that's what I tell people.
That's what it should be. It should be football because you're kicking the ball with your foot. Like American football, I just don't get why it's called American football. I just don't have no words.
Well, we love to butcher things, so that's probably why. But I was gonna say, and I think Gabby, I've told you this. If not, pardon my ignorance on this. But I actually had the chance to. It's funny because I did go to school in America, in South Carolina, but I did have the chance to study abroad for a semester in London. And so it's funny that you mentioned those differences because that was kind of my take on it too. Being from like obviously study abroad, there's more emphasis on the traveling side, you know, if you're going to go somewhere. But it was interesting to me. The biggest takeaway for me was that you could only have like class like 3 days a week if you wanted. It depended on your schedule. But it was also very like self-learn, like self-taught kind of curriculum. So like in an instance, so like basically in college at South Carolina, you know, you go to class to learn basically, right? Like that's what you do, and then you get homework to be able to like do, or projects or tasks or whatever to do during the week to then come back to class to like work on that stuff more or whatever. Whereas with and this could vary obviously, but where I studied abroad in London, it was more so if you didn't understand something about the assignment and the reading and the curriculum, you went to class to ask questions. You didn't go to class just to like digest and like consume the information. You were already doing that on your own terms and like your own scheduling. And the other thing that was kind of very different for me for that semester from an American standpoint was it was pass or fail. And I know that changes for like, you know, depending on what university you studied at and stuff like that. But for us, it was pass or fail. So it didn't matter if I did bad on a test necessarily. It was really like the fact that if I didn't fail, I was good. You know what I mean? Like,
like there was a lot more
grace. There was a lot more grace.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, wow. Thank
So
you. Thank you both for
interesting.
sharing that. That's insight, I'm
Yeah,
like
yeah,
learning new things and I love it. That's why we're
yeah.
here. Now changing gears a little bit. Can you
Mhm.
tell us about when did you immigrate to the US and what that
Mhm.
process looked like? Like what brought you here? How did you make the connection? Tell us all the things.
Yeah, so I have been here for about 5 years in Charlotte, and I actually came to be part of Elevation Church. It's a
Hmm.
church here in Charlotte, North Carolina, and the reason why I came was I really just felt like this pull to be part of the ministry here, and I had to go through like a visa process to kind of do to be here for at least 6 months. So my first initial thing was just to come and be an intern and to learn from Elevation Church. My dad's a pastor in the UK, and I heard about the church through him many years ago, and yeah, I just kind of thought, you know what, I'm going to take the opportunity to see if I could be part of an internship here, and so I did. I applied for it, and I got accepted, and so I had to go down to the US Embassy in London, and I actually got denied a visa to I went for like a visitor's visa to be here for longer than 6 months, just for about 6 months, and I got denied a visa, and so I had to wait to go back to kind of like go for another appointment, and then so I went back again, and I actually got accepted. That was the second time I went. I got accepted for my visa, and then 2 weeks later, I literally left the UK and I started my new life in America. So it wasn't my plan to stay. I was planning to be here for like at least 6 months, well, for 3 to 4 months, maybe up to 6 months because of my visa. And a door was opened, an opportunity was open for me to kind of get a job at Elevation, and they offered me a job, which also they helped me to get like a work visa. It was like a religious visa,
Hmm.
um, and it was such a blessing because they literally helped me with the whole process of getting that visa. And I've been here ever since. So I've been on this visa for about 4.5 years now. So
Wow.
I know that's not everyone's story. I feel very blessed because the church has really helped me and equipped me to get this visa. Um, but I know the first part of it was a real struggle to get that first kind of like visitor's visa to come
Yeah.
here.
Yeah.
So
Can you share actually a little
yeah.
bit more about that? Because I know in every country, like getting a visa is not as easy, visitor's visa. So can you tell us a little bit like that? You mentioned wait times. Because I know, like, for example, in my context in Honduras, if you're denied, they give you it depends. They give you different timelines, but for some people it's like 1 year, other people it's 2 years. What are those waiting times in a
Yeah.
context like London?
I wouldn't say as bad as London. It probably you couldn't reapply for 3 months, but you
Okay.
are marked like of being denied a visa.
Mm,
So um, and obviously the appointments are very scarce and in between. So I knew when I got denied a visa, I knew I had to book one really quickly, but I could only book one 3 months out, because
mm,
I was denied one. So it was about a 3 month wait, um, and then you're probably going to wait a good week to actually
mm,
get the visa stamped into your passport for you to go with that visa. So um, that is the procedure in London to get your like my visa. Whilst I am on my religious visa, my work visa here at Elevation, um, they allow you to kind of stay in the country. But
mm,
if I wanted to go back to the UK to visit my family, I'd have to go back down to London to the embassy, kind of get the visa stamped into my passport, and then for me to re-enter into the country. Um, so yeah, that's the procedure with the kind of the religious visa part of it.
I have a question as far as like, since basically, I guess you're saying the elevation, like where you're working, is your sponsor or has become your sponsor,
Yeah.
right? So is there limitations on how often you can go back home? Like, do they have say over you being able to go back, or is that kind of like on your own terms since it's technically a working visa?
No, so I'm basically employed like a normal employee at Elevation.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I've got the visa stamped into my passport, I did that like about 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I can go back and out of the country when I want now.
Okay.
But if I didn't, I would have to stay put into the country
Okay.
because for me to re-enter into America, they really need to see that kind of stamp in my passport. Um, yeah, if that
Okay.
makes any sense. So
Yeah.
I work as a normal employee. I get like normal like benefits, normal everything. It's just that I'm having to always have that like stamp in my passport for me to re-enter into the country. If I don't, that's going to be I wouldn't be able to re-enter.
Okay. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
No, yeah, that helps clarify things.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as like something that you're thankful for about immigrating here, um,
Mm-hmm.
what would you say is something you're thankful for, and maybe some hardships that you also have endured whenever you came here?
Yeah, I think I'm just so grateful. I was just thinking earlier today, I'm like the opportunity just to um, be in a place where I know not many people would ever get to be, in the sense of like I um, have been given an opportunity to live in a different country and get a completely different experience. And some people don't have the opportunity to just move out their city or town, and I've got an opportunity to live in a completely different country. I think Americans for me, and I don't want to generalize all Americans, but what I've what I think of Americans, they're very warm and welcoming. Um, they really do. Um, I don't know. I feel like they accept you pretty quickly on. There's not this like wall up, but there's like they're very accepting in who you are, and you're like trying to like make you feel welcome being in their country, which is amazing because I know other parts of the world they don't always find it easier to really welcome you.
Hmm.
So I think I'm grateful for the community I've built here, and just the friends that I've made that actually like they really do become somewhat people that you are like become really close with and become like family.
Hmm.
Um, so and yeah, I would say you can't really compare the weather, can you? Like the weather here versus the UK is just like it's night and day. Like it's
Hmm.
like the sun shining, and it's warm. Obviously, you've had a bit of cold weather these past 2 days, but majority of the time it's really, really warm. And yeah, compared to the grey, cloudy UK, there's a massive difference. Um, yeah, I would say some hardships would be it's always hard not being in a place where my family is. I think obviously, like I said, you do find friends that become like family, and you do have a community around you that takes time to build. Um, but that's number one for me, is like you're having to really. I think after 5 years, I think I've built something now, and I'm still trying to figure it out. But it's way different to being here when I just come, and it can feel really isolating, and it can feel lonely, and you can really feel misunderstood, I would say. I think although a majority of Americans are very warm and accepting, um, there is a still thing of like, do you get me? Do you understand me? Do you understand my culture? Do you understand where I've come from? And
Yeah.
that can be very difficult to
Mm.
really kind of process and be yourself with. So that is a hardship. I think you learn how to navigate it, um, but there's nothing like being with people that are your family, but also understand you. Um, So yeah.
I love that. That's good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you have like any, like you mentioned, just kind of like, I guess, hardship of, navigating a different place? Do you have any like specific examples of like anything you remember when you first moved here? Like I remember Marlon sharing, not to spoil, but Marlon, when she shared her story, she said the gas pump thing.
Yeah.
She didn't know like what to do because they pump their gas, like someone pumps their gas in Honduras. So she was like, "You have to
Yes.
do this yourself."
Yeah. Okay, I definitely had that experience too. Because normally you don't have to, like, not in the UK, but in South Africa, you don't. They do it for you. So just pull up your car, and then you've
Mm.
got someone who does it for you, which is a game changer. It's so nice.
Yeah.
Um, I would say one thing.
Why don't we have that here?
I know, it's so nice.
Yeah. Apparently
It's so
I've heard
nice.
that in New Jersey, because I've asked people, and someone said, "Oh, wait, in New Jersey we actually that's how it is." And I was like, "Oh, okay, cool." There is, at least that's the one place, maybe someone else knows of a place.
I
Yeah.
do think they do that, and I think they also clean your windshield, which I'm like, bonus, like that would be nice,
Yeah,
you know?
literally. You might as well just wash my whole car whilst you're at
Yeah.
it, please.
Just take it to the car wash and the
Yeah.
gas
Right,
station.
Yeah.
right,
Gabby, I had
right.
a question. So in the previous episodes, again, every immigration story is different. That concept of home, sometimes it can come into what you said, like family. And I think that that's something that I know was one of the most difficult things when I moved to the US. Just that familiarity piece, that feeling like at home and knowing that culturally it's different and not it gets lonely because not people don't get it, usually like
Mm-hmm.
this is a different context. So I wanted to ask you, have you been able to find community where you have been able to, share openly? Or because, and it's interesting, different parts of the world, because when you mentioned like Americans are very warm,
Yeah.
I actually didn't think that. But it's because you come from a different
Oh,
context.
you
No,
didn't?
because in my context, people
Ah,
are warmer. And actually, I felt it was a little cold. So it's just interesting how, when you grow
that's
up in different
interesting.
parts of the world,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and my experience, it wasn't as welcoming either. But that's where, we can see here every story is different. But I'm just interested to see, like,
Yeah.
have you been able to find like community? Because that's, I know it's key. Like, in contrast to how community looked like maybe in the UK,
The UK.
then it has been here.
Yeah.
Like, could you share a little bit of that?
Yeah. 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 100%. I think it's definitely helped me being part of a church,
Hmm.
because straight away I came into being part of a community, so I could just find my way within that community. So that's definitely helpful. So a lot of my friends that I'm friends with are from my church Elevation, and because I came to do an internship program, I built a lot of my relationships within that internship program. So um, which is such a benefit to me coming here alone, because straight away I had people around me that I could kind of like make relationships with, but it still takes time to
Hmm.
build like deep relationships and deep friendships, and to make people feel, well, for me to feel like um, they get me and they understand me. That takes time. It's not like an overnight, oh yeah, we're friends. Da, da, da. No, it takes a good amount of like months to years to really create those friendships, and build a community. So I would say now I'm in a place where, yes, I definitely have some great friendships and some a community around me, that I know I can turn to at any point and any time. But it hasn't been an easy process. I think it's been helpful to be part of an easy community coming into it, but I'm having to find those people that I really do gel with. Um, yeah, and I think it's that thing of like, you want to feel like you don't have to always explaining yourself all the time, of like, this is where I'm from, this is my background, this is um this is what it's like in where I'm from. It's like you want to kind of feel like just to be accepted and just be who you are. because I think partly you wanting just to feel relaxed, and I think that takes time to feel relaxed with certain friendships and certain people. So yeah, that's always a key thing for me. I want to just feel like I can just be myself and feel relaxed, and I'm not having to explain all the time like my story, because you stand out with your accent. I feel like sometimes I'm like, there's always like, oh, where are you from? And I'm like, oh, here we go. Like it's always, I feel like I'm on repeat of like having to explain myself, and that can be difficult. I think partly you're intriguing to people, but another part of it's like I'm always standing out, and I kind of just want to feel like I want to blend in, and like I just want to be like relaxed in a sense of like I'm not having to explain myself. So
Okay,
yeah.
that is so good. And I just want to say from my perspective, like that is like gold. I feel like because I don't think people realize, like, I don't think they're doing it, with ill intentions by any means, but I don't think many people that haven't traveled and haven't been able to experience other cultures and other accents and stuff like that really understand, like, how much that is, like, draining, like you're saying
Yeah.
a little bit,
Yeah.
And I just want to park on that for a minute because I feel like what you just said is like it's so valuable and it's such good knowledge to hear it from your perspective because it's almost like you're saying I don't want to keep my guard up. I want to just like be able to
100%.
I just want to be able to
100%.
be myself and be me.
Yeah.
And I feel like Marlene, like you can speak into that, but I feel like that is probably the most unanimous thing that we've heard with these stories is like having to have your guard up, like having to explain why my name is pronounced a certain way, having to talk about these things or why why it's different, why it doesn't make sense. Like, do you want to talk more into that? Because I feel like that is just like it's gold. Like I'm so glad you went there and I'm so glad you brought that up because I don't think people understand the impact because I think it's one of those things where if they're meeting you for the first time, Gabby, like that makes sense, like for them to ask questions like that.
Yeah.
But they don't realize that everyone after them is going to be asking the same questions.
Exactly.
And then on top of that, like you've been here for 4 or 5 years, right? And
yeah.
so it's like I think
It
there's
never
probably
goes away though.
I
It
was gonna
never
say
goes
there's probably
away.
a
It
sense of
never
like
yeah.
like, is this ever gonna stop? Like, I've been here now for a while. I know my
Yeah.
accent is still present,
Yeah.
but I've been here.
Yeah.
I what do you have to say about that? I feel like Marlene, you might have some
Yeah, I
points on that
do.
too.
I think, and I wanted to ask you first, have you experienced when people comment specifically, because we've talked about accents and language, um, in the way that people react, do you think that they've made you feel bad because of your accent, or you use the word intrigued, and that's interesting that people are intrigued because I have found, and maybe you can speak into this, and even John, like his accent is from Africa, so that's a different experience than a British accent, or like when I've heard people comment on like an Irish, Scottish, the how do I put this? The intentions or the way that it's even mentioned, it's a little bit different in the sense of like there is people that I've known in my life, like that have the Latino Spanish accent. There's people react differently, not in an intrigued way, but more like there's a couple of assumptions that come with that, like education. But as someone that comes from Europe, I would be interested to hear more about your experience or how you feel. Yeah, because you used the word intrigued, and I'm interested in that because it is a difference with accents, like
Yeah.
different depending on
Yeah.
where you come from the world.
100%.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
100%. I would say, uh, the word intrigue is because of the British accent of what people have built up in their minds of
yeah.
like, afternoon tea,
Mm,
the Queen, the
Yeah.
royal family. So they've got this idea of like what they think the UK is like and what the British accent all entails. So straight away, I think people hear me like, oh, I know where, like, they go into their mind like, oh, afternoon tea, like there's you know what I mean, like, all of that, like, so they've built this idea of up in their head. So I think something like that, it stands out for them for what they have in their minds of what they think a British person
yeah.
is. So then they lean in of like, yeah, that's what I would say, the word
Yeah.
intrigued. But obviously, like, there's so much more to me than just that, being from the
Yeah.
UK. So there's a whole nother, like, because the UK is made up of different, obviously different parts and different cultures
Yeah.
too. So it's just not the fact that I have afternoon tea and like, we have a royal family. There's way more
So I think it's
differences to
stereotypes,
it.
and that's another
Like the
thing. So
stereotype.
It's the
yeah,
stereotypes.
we
It's the
talk about it
stereotypes of like,
yeah,
of
no, go ahead.
Yeah.
yeah,
We talked
no,
about that with John too. Sorry.
yeah, exactly that, of like what they've built in their head of like, okay, I know exactly what this experience that I've had before, and I'm thinking, yeah, whatever they think is going to be. So
Yeah, and I
yeah.
think for everyone is different, because for me it's like, when I tell them, oh, this is where I'm from, and again, the stereotypes, and everyone tells me, oh, well, I've been to Honduras on a mission trip, or I've been to this, and they just see. I think in one way, I think what I've come to realize is people want to relate to you. They want to relate to you in some way,
They
and they
do.
will only do that and connect in the ways that they know, and like their point of reference, kind
Yeah.
of their POV or whatever point of view. But it's just interesting too. Like, I think just that awareness of, where are we stereotyping people? What's the intention behind that? And you said it, like, we are more than just, I mean, every story is different. One, like, just as individuals, which, is for every single story. And then for groups of people, like, it can be easy stereotyping, like, oh, you're from the UK again, and you said tea, and all the things that come with that. And we talked with John in the previous episode as well, like, everyone thinks in Africa it looks exactly like this, but not every country has experienced war, or been a refugee, or all the things. And the same in my
100%.
country, like, yeah, like, there's just layers that I think sometimes we're unaware of, and I've come to learn where, yeah, it can be frustrating, and I think it's an opportunity that I've taken now of, like, hey, let me share, which I don't tell them I'm going to educate you, but I'm like, hey, let me tell you about my country, my context, a little bit more, like, yeah, there's more to us than just what you see on TV, on media, which usually, and I mean, this also depends on the country of origin. It's not portrayed to its full extent. But yeah, no, thank you for sharing that, because it's definitely, stereotypes is just something that we have to deal with.
100%. And I think you having to just like lean into the person and their story. Because me personally, like, I've got a Jamaican mother and I've got a white father, but I've had two different experiences from just another person in the UK who's had, just two British kind of parents. So I may have a different experience to someone else. I'm from the UK, but it's going to be completely different. So I think it's like, it's really taking the time not just to have a stereotype in what you built up in from the movie that you've watched or that show that I watched once, but actually taking the time to just listen and like and to the person that may sound different to you, because they may have a different story to what you may have in your mind of who they are and what they've experienced. And I think I challenge myself too to always do that. Whoever I meet that may be from North Carolina, of like, I obviously I'm hearing them, they sound American, but I don't know their story. And it's taken the time to really, okay, let me lean into your story and who you are as a person, versus just what I may have built up in my head of, oh yeah, you're another person just down the street that lives in North Carolina, because you have a different story. And that's what I think is, I felt the difference between someone leaning into my story and who I am as a person versus just my accent and what they've built up in their
That's really
mind.
good.
Dang, girl, that is so good. Like, seriously, wow. Okay, so as far as, and I almost feel like I'm just gonna say what I know I've learned from you in this way. But I feel like you're very big on awareness, and I love that
Yeah.
you are so, like, I just feel like when we were talking before, you were like, you know, I just feel like there's not an awareness of like the cultures and a desire, like you're saying, to lean into people's stories, and like not just from a outside standpoint, like from getting to know who they are and like their heart and like what they're passionate about and what they enjoy. Because I think, like you're saying, Marlon, it's a lot of like, we all want to fit in.
Mhm.
And even if we're being, you know, curious about, you know, the accents or whatever is different, that's still pointing out the differences. So I'm a big advocate of like, differences are beautiful. Like they are so rich and unique and amazing, and that's why we're doing this, because I love being able to capture so many different perspectives, but leaning into those differences and why they're different and why it makes it beautiful, not just pointing out the difference, right? Like making sure that it's like, I love, like, basically if I were to like, you know, meet you, Gabby, being like, wow, I love your accent, like tell me more about like how you grew up. Not like, oh my gosh, do you have afternoon tea every day? Like those are the things I think is the like mind shift a little
Mhm.
bit of like how we can love people well, but also how we can love immigrants, especially in the States, well. So I was just gonna say the awareness piece and what you just shared, I feel like is so valuable. Just when it comes to talking and getting to know people that come across your path and letting them feel welcomed in a way that, oh, I want to get to know you as a person, not just because you're different than me,
Mhm.
right?
So helpful.
So
That's so good.
thank you. Well, honestly, that was what you taught me. So I was just reiterating to our listeners just so that they can hopefully grab onto that as well. But from your perspective, Gabby, I would love to know how you feel like we can do better about loving immigrants well.
Yeah. I would say don't always point out the most biggest difference. I think
Yeah.
you try so hard to blend in because
Mm-hmm.
you are an alien in a way. Like I'm an
Mm.
alien. I'm not from here. So you already have this feeling of like feeling on the outskirts.
Yeah.
So I would really, I know when someone makes me feel like I'm in, and it makes me feel really accepted, and it makes me feel really like, just kind of appreciated for not being on the outskirts all the time. So I think just trying to make the person feel, although they're not from the same place that you are, maybe they sound different, maybe they don't look the same,
Mhm.
maybe they have all these
Mhm.
differences, but trying their best just to really make them feel that they're valued to be here, and they
Yeah.
are seen to be here, and make them feel like they belong in a way. I know
Yeah.
there's going to be so many differences within that, but you actually, you belong here
Mm.
whilst you're here.
Yeah.
So I would say that would
Yeah.
be something really, really great to do. And people don't mean to do this, and I've learned just to like take it with like a pinch of salt and just like laugh it off, but not always to kind of like make a mockery of
Mm.
the accent or what someone does that may be different, because now and then is fine, I get it, but when you get it all the time, it can make
Yeah.
you feel like, oh, I'm just
Like
trying
there's
to just be
something wrong
myself.
with me, or
There's
like
something wrong with
yeah.
me. Yeah.
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 So
Okay.
I would say that could be a feeling that I could get. I could be like, I know
Hmm.
it's fun and it's funny and like I can laugh it off sometimes, but there can also be another layer to it where I'm like, okay, like I do get that consistently, and it makes me feel like just trying to be myself. Can you just accept me for who I am, kind of thing.
That's so good. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
good.
Yeah. Marlon, what would you say to that? Because I
No,
know.
that's wonderful. I think in so many ways I agree. I think that when you immigrate, you want to fit in so bad. But
Mm.
I think learning and embracing all who you are, even when people are not accepting of you, is a
Mhm.
hard, challenging, very intentional thing. I think everything you said was really spot on, not only the awareness piece, but like just specifics, like if making fun of accents, and I mean, I've heard it in so many different ways, and yeah, it's just like hurtful, and I think it just allows us to, when we share stories, and thank you for being able to like share your perspective. When we share perspectives, it brings that proximity, it brings that awareness of like, hey, maybe the things that have been normalized, because here's the thing, those things are normal, right? And when something is
Mhm.
normalized, you're not aware of how it might be affecting other people and groups of people, which
Yeah.
obviously here
Yeah.
in the US, it being so diverse, you have so many people from like different, like literally
Mhm.
all over the world. So it's like that awareness piece of like, with it being a first world country that is very diverse, there comes also responsibility with that when it comes to like
Yeah.
treating people, and especially for us Christians, where we're called to love our neighbor. We're loved to call our neighbor that is, and
100%.
our neighbor, not this, there's not a description after what neighbor means, so and
Mhm.
having all the different stories of what an immigrant is, I think, and you said it, and I think it's been echoed in all the different episodes. It's like the awareness piece, we keep
Yeah.
bringing it up, the being cognizant of how you're treating the person, the jokes, the yeah, just assumptions, the stereotypes, and I
Mhm.
think, and
Yeah.
look,
Yeah,
we all do it.
exactly.
I have to take ownership of the stereotypes that I have built in my head too. And now that I've had to break and be intentional about saying, oh, I had stereotypes about this group of people, but now that I have friendships from this culture, that we go
Mhm.
far beyond just surface level, because that's the other thing. It's very easy, like the surface level. I'm also I'm like, let's cut through it. Let's go deep. But I know that that's also sometimes takes people by surprise. But anyway, yeah, just that being welcoming, and you said it, like being welcoming, it takes intentionality. It sometimes doesn't come natural.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So yeah, no, thank you for sharing all of
We
those.
talked about it. We talked about it too before, Gabby, of just the curiosity piece, because I think that goes a long way of just
Yeah.
instead of making the assumption like, oh, this is what your life looks like back in Nottingham. Did I say it right?
There we go.
I tried.
You got it. You got it. You got it.
Just not making those assumptions, like asking questions. And I think, like you were saying, just like getting to know people for people,
Mhm.
not because of
So good.
their outside
So
appearance,
good.
their accent, like just getting to know them as a person. But thank you so much for sharing, Gabby. This has been
Of
amazing.
course.
And I am so excited to be able for people to listen to this.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
And sharing,
Yes,
girl.
thank you so
Yes,
much.
we are always honored, and when someone chooses to say yes to coming on here and just share part of their stories, and especially as we're focusing right
No,
now in
thank
our
you so
immigration
much.
series. So thank you, appreciate you.
Of course. Of course.
Yes, thank you again. All right, guys, we will catch you in the next episode. Have a
Have a
great
great
day.
day.